on, everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video. I'm just chilling in my car on my break right now, and I figured I would make the next review for Jurassic Park: The Lost World. So if you watched my last video, I mentioned how I was rewatching the Jurassic Park films recently with my girlfriend, and we just watched the second and third one the other night, and I figured, why not just review it and add it to the channel. I've seen these movies 100 million times, and yeah, it was nice to get a nice refreshed take on it. So The Lost World was always my least favorite of the three that originally came out for Jurassic Park. I know some people really don't like the third one. I actually really enjoy that film, and the second one was always the one that was kind of lackluster to me personally. If you know nothing about this film, it stars Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, reprising his role from the first film. It also stars Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore, as well as a few other returning characters. So if you know absolutely nothing about this film, we find out that there is a second island of dinosaurs. The first island was the one with the actual park on it, and then there's a separate one where they were actually creating the dinosaurs and transferring them over. Between the first and the second film, Ian Malcolm has been the main one really vocal about what happened there and the events that occurred, and kind of being really against it all. So without getting too deep into spoilers, I'd be surprised if you haven't already seen this movie, but in case you haven't, I don't want to spoil too much for you, even though this movie doesn't have too much to spoil. But the basic idea is Ian Malcolm is kind of in a way tricked into going, tricked by his girlfriend already being there. She was sent as a photographer and to study these animals, and so a group of 4 people was to go in, including him, to study these animals, document them, and bring it back so that the world can know about them, and we can try to preserve that island and the dinosaur life in general. So not long into being on the island, they discover that there's another group that's been sent to the island by InGen, by different people, actually to track these animals down and capture them, and to essentially try to transfer them back to the States and create Jurassic Park in San Diego. And that's all I'll really say about the story. You can kind of imagine what happens from there. But yeah, this movie for me is, like I mentioned, the weaker one of the original 3 Jurassic Park films. I always really enjoyed the performances in this film. Nobody necessarily gives like a bad performance. There is a character, Ian Malcolm has many children that he mentions that he has in the first film, from different marriages. Now, we meet one of those kids in this film, and she's actually a pretty integral part to the movie overall, and she's kind of an annoying element to the film. He has this daughter, and she's with him. She ends up sneaking her way, pretty much is what I meant to say, onto the island via their vehicle that they went on. And once they get there, he's kind of freaked out that she's there. Obviously, she's on this dangerous island of dinosaurs. He already doesn't want to be there, and he's only really there to get his girlfriend Sarah off of the island. And of course, once the paramilitary team kind of shows up to capture the dinosaurs, there's a lot more that ends up happening. They get more involved, and of course, dinosaurs start eating people. And my biggest issue that I have with this film is not necessarily the look of the film or the performances. It's that the characters are written in such an odd way for me. In the first film, one thing I really loved is that all the characters feel as intelligent as that character is specifically written. And what I mean by that is a character who you already know to be an intelligent person will make decisions that you feel fall in line with that character and the kind of person they are. And when dumb decisions are made or over-the-top decisions are made, it typically falls in line with the specific character that is making that decision. Whereas in this movie, you have characters that have specific titles or have experienced certain things and are supposed to be a lot more intelligent, making incredibly foolish and dumb decisions that end up really just kind of messing everything up. It's really only there to be a plot device, you know what I mean? You have characters making decisions that are just to move the plot forward, move the story further, but it's one of those things where it's like, would somebody with that kind of background and that title really be that dumb? Would they really make these kind of decisions? And so that lapse in logic is the biggest issue I have with this film. There's so many decisions made by characters that you just cannot get behind. And it's one thing to have a character that's not all there, or a character that maybe is distracted or making just foolish decisions out of selfishness or whatever. If it makes sense with that character, then I can buy into it. Whereas in this movie, you have characters who have, they talk about their experiences from the past, or, they talk about, how intelligent that specific character is. They set them up to, have a specific, title in some, whether it's scientific or anything. And they are just making decisions that you feel that person with that kind of title and that experience would never make. And so that's my biggest issue with this film, is that everything that happens wrong in this film is based on bad and poor decisions made by characters that you would never expect to make those decisions. Now, I'm not trying to say that this movie is a bad movie. Some people really don't like it. I actually thoroughly enjoy it. There's some big tentpole moments in this movie that I feel are just, when you think of Jurassic Park, I think of moments in this movie still as some of the greatest moments in Jurassic Park. One being the trailer scene where the two T-Rex are, attacking the trailer. That's a fantastic sequence. Practical effects in that scene, the way it's shot, the tension, I've always really enjoyed that scene quite a lot. And there's some other big scenes near the end of the film and some near the beginning of the film. As far as the the action and some of the really tense scenes, I think that they do a really good job of setting those scenes up, and visually the movie still looks fantastic. And I guess what disappoints me a little bit more is that this is a Steven Spielberg film that just doesn't feel like a Steven Spielberg film majority of the time. I would say it's definitely probably one of my least favorite Steven Spielberg films. Not counting a few that are probably some of his weaker ones. There's definitely some of that Steven Spielberg as kind of feeling to it at points, but it's not as strong as I think some of his other films. So I think that's kind of something that leans more into the disappointment element for me. I'm also not a huge fan of the score of this film. It's not that it's a bad score. I like specific themes that are specific to this film, but as far as the overall score, it's not as exciting or there as much. You know what I mean? It feels like there's a lot more silence where the film could definitely use some music. But that's not a huge negative, just something that I just felt like I should say. Yeah, guys, I really don't have too much to say about this movie because my biggest issue with it is that it's just kind of the more bland Jurassic Park. It has some great tentpole moments, and what I really love about it is that they retained the whole vibe of animatronics and really having these dinosaurs look real and creepy majority of the time. They really do look great. I mean, the animatronics in this film and in this franchise for the most part, it wasn't until around Jurassic World that they really deviated from that too much in my eyes, because even Jurassic Park 3 has quite a lot of animatronics that I really enjoy. But this movie definitely retains a lot of that. There's some great moments with animatronics that I thoroughly enjoy. It's just that the characters for me are just written very poorly. There's just lines in this film that are said that you can't help but like laugh at, or just feel like it just feels out of place. And again, too many of the characters make too many dumb decisions that there's not that many people to root for in this film for me. Rewatching it, I rewatched it with my girlfriend. It was her first time watching it, and she was annoyed with half the characters on screen. You know what I mean? Nobody, you don't really care about anybody, and a lot of that has to do with the way that the film was written and the pacing of the film. Like I mentioned, this is just a lackluster film. There's a lot more lulls in this film. It doesn't feel like there's as much happening narratively, and you tend to not really care too much about the characters. It's just kind of fun to see dinosaurs do dinosaur things, and like I said, there's some cool, really strong action points and some tension that I really enjoy. But for the most part, yeah, it just kind of falls flat on the overall. Now, again, that's not to say I don't enjoy this movie. It's just it's always been my least favorite Jurassic Park film, and now that actually Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, spoiler to my future review, I mean, the Fallen Kingdom actually I think took that place for me as probably my least favorite Jurassic Park film. I didn't hate it either. I don't hate any of these movies, and I don't massively dislike them. I just think that The Lost World and Fallen Kingdom just have a lot less going on narratively, and there's a lot more nothingness happening. And when you walk away from that film, though you may remember certain big tentpole moments, you don't really remember the little moments and the little lines of dialogue. Whereas in the first Jurassic Park, it's so much about the big moments, the small moments, the intimate moments between characters that, when you rewatch it, there's a specific charm that I think The Lost World just didn't have. And I really enjoy the performances. Like I said, nobody really gives me a bad performance in this movie. I really enjoy seeing Jeff Goldblum again, though a lot of people think that Jeff Goldblum's performance of Ian Malcolm in this film is quite different than the Ian Malcolm we got in the first film. I think there's definitely a bit of a difference, but not over the top or some sort of huge difference. But yeah, that's just a little bit of a nitpick. But yeah, guys, I think that's gonna be the end of my review. I really don't have too much more to say. I think if you've never seen Jurassic Park: The Lost World, I highly recommend it, because some of the greatest moments in Jurassic Park are in this movie, and most of them are surrounded around the effects and action sequences and some of just like big tentpole moments that when you think of Jurassic Park, you would instantly think of certain sequences of this film without necessarily thinking about the film itself. And I guess that's like I said, the weaker part of the film is it's just not as strong as writing. There's a lot of really cheesy lines made. There's a lot of characters you don't care about in this film. Nobody ever like has you gripped, you know, to the seat or you know, gripped onto what's happening in general. You know, there's a lot of just a lapse in logic. A lot of characters get themselves into, you know, really shitty situations, and you can't help but feel like you kind of had that coming, man. Like, you know, it's one thing, again, to like have them go somewhere where they don't know that, oh, there's a dinosaur there, and you're seeing it from the audience perspective. But in this one, it's just kind of like, man, if you had not done that stupid ass decision, this would have never happened. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of how I feel about this movie. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I do love a lot of things about it, but as far as the overall movie itself, I wish it would be a lot stronger. But you know, some people really hate this movie. I really enjoy it. This is kind of a chill, more laid-back review. You know, I don't have too much to say about it, but I don't want to completely make it seem like I hate this film. You know, I highly recommend it. I do highly recommend it. You know, I don't do ratings on this channel. I don't really feel like that's I feel like ratings always change. You know, my perspective on films always changes, because even really rewatching this and being able to poke fun at a lot of things and even tell you guys about the negatives, I still had a lot of fun watching it, and I still really enjoy this film. So yeah, I highly recommend checking it out. If not for the story, for the action, for the animatronics, the special effects, and some of the really big tentpole moments that Jurassic Park The Lost World has to offer. So yeah, guys, it's gonna be the end of my review. I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and please share this to other people. Make sure you comment as well. Let's have a discussion down below. What do you think about The Lost World? I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!